As many of you know, just over 4 years ago, the United States SEC filed its lawsuit against Ripple.
Yep.
I'm finally able to announce that this case has ended.
What?
It's over.
It's over.
Sitting here today and reflecting on...
All right. So look, we got a very eventful show for you today. We're going to talk about what I just showed you, the SEC case on Ripple, where I think Ripple's going or XRP is going in the near future, where it is right now. We're also going to talk about the Fed. What happened at yesterday's meeting that not a lot of people picked up on, and that should be very interesting information and very interesting to see how it unravels. And one more thing we're going to discuss, I talked about Eazybot about a week ago. I started a whole new account just to show you how it works. I'm going to show you 1 week in what that looks like now and where it's gone. Now, I've used this for 2.5 years, but I'm just showing you now what's going on with it. So with that, remember, every single day in crypto is an adventure. I mean, an adventure. And today is certainly no different. There's a lot of big things going on. So if you're not a subscriber, now's the time to hit subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow my audience so I can spread and share the wealth of information and knowledge that I've learned from all of you in the industry that I can give back. So with that, let's get in and talk about XRP. Right now, I mean, as you saw yesterday, XRP was down here. The news about Ripple hit. It went up. You know, it didn't skyrocket as much as many people had said it was, but we had a nice little gain yesterday. We had a nice little gain of about, I'll call that 11%. Nice little rally. Nice little rally. But where are we on the big scheme of things with XRP and Ripple? I mean, I got a lot of lines drawn here, but you know, if you pull out a bit, this is the 1 hour time frame. We've been on a downward descending channel here. Downward descending channel. We've broken out a couple times, but we snapped back. We snapped against look at this, perfectly against ceilings of resistance, floors of support. You know, now we can create a new upward ascending channel possibly, but is that going to happen? You know, what has to happen for that to happen? Well, you know, a couple things. One, we've got to see some real world utility come out pretty fast and lots of announcements, lots of news, and lots of, you know, pathways for XRP to be successful. Now, you know, look, it looks like we're already snapping back to that original downward descending wedge. If we pop back below, 238 or so, we're going to be stuck in this channel again. So if XRP doesn't have some big news coming out soon to give weight to this SEC dropped case, you know, expect that to go back down and trade within a lower channel. Now, if they do announce a bunch of big things, you could see some big moves for Ripple. So I'm still an XRP fan. I believe in its utility. Now, this isn't financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. Do your own research before you do any of these things. But I am going to, if it does snap below that channel, I'm going to watch it for a while. I hold a fair amount of XRP. And I'm going to hold on to that for a while because I do believe in the utility of it. Now, with that, I would say that, you know, right now, that yesterday was a big event we've been waiting for a long time. And it's not just good for XRP. It's good for all of crypto. It just shows this current administration and the current SEC that the Gary Gensler days are over and that we have a whole new world in crypto that's creating widespread adoption. And I just don't see it going away in the next 4 years at the very least. And it's really gotten a foothold in Wall Street, on Wall Street and all these things. So I really think this is just solidified that crypto is here to stay. So with that, let's talk about the Federal Reserve. You know, what did happen at the Federal Reserve yesterday? Well, they announced, as expected, they announced that there's no additional rate hikes. So they didn't hike the rates at all. They didn't drop the rates either, and that was not expected. They weren't expected to drop the rates. And we looked at the dot plot. The dot plot was extraordinarily important, and we didn't really get a huge increase in potential rate cuts this year. But what the Fed did say, and this is interesting and slightly a bit unexpected. I mean, we know that there's a thing called QT, quantitative tightening, and what that is the Fed sells treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, long-term assets, in order to actually restrict and limit, liquidity out there. And they actually sell these things. And when you sell something, the price goes down typically, And the yield is an inverse relationship. So the yield that they get on those bonds has gone up. That's why rates have gone up for mortgage-backed securities or mortgages and treasuries. The treasury rates have gone up. We were selling about $35 billion a month of mortgage-backed securities and about $25 billion a month of treasuries. Now, they didn't change the mortgage-backed security sales. If you see right here, it says beginning in April. See, I thought this wasn't going to start till May or June. The committee will slow the pace of decline of securities holdings by reducing the monthly redemption cap, that's how much they sell, on treasury securities from $25 billion to $5 billion. So that's like a 5x reduction in sales of treasuries. So that's going to help bring liquidity back to the treasury markets. So people, the biggest seller isn't the government, and that it will give, like, people would come back because they don't want to buy something they know that's just going to, be sold and go down in value. So now you have the biggest seller reducing their sales. So that's going to help bring liquidity back to treasuries, bring more money back to treasuries, which we need, and help reduce the rates on long-term treasury assets. Now, what they didn't do, and this is not good for housing, but the committee will maintain, not change, but maintain the redemption cap on agency debt and mortgage-backed securities at $35 billion. So they are not changing. So don't expect mortgage rates to come down quickly. Now, they might come down based on inflation data, and they might come down based on the other treasuries, more liquidity in the treasury markets. But they're not changing that because the Federal Reserve still has a balance sheet of like $6 trillion that if something catastrophic was to happen, they don't have a lot of power. They don't have a lot of room to buy assets and do quantitative easing. Now, a lot of people on their YouTube channels talk about this is quantitative easing when they lower rates. Not true. Quantitative easing is only when they buy long-term treasuries or mortgage-backed securities or other agency debt. It is not when they slow or lower the rates. And we're not going to see quantitative easing this year, almost guaranteed. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, but not this year because they've got to get through that balance sheet or lower rates to zero before they start buying assets. That's a feather in their cap that they're going to hold tightly. I don't know if that's the right term, but they're not going to do that until they have to. And they don't have to right now because the economy, it's not great, but it's not in dire need of quantitative easing. We've got to get those assets off our books before we start buying more. That being said, Fed news is very bullish for crypto because there is going to be more liquidity in the market, and more liquidity bodes well for other investment and asset types. So I'm very excited about this. Last piece. So about a week ago, last Wednesday, I created a new Eazybot account just to show you all what Eazybot can do. And I did it, I opened up a new Eazybot account, and I opened up a new Kraken account to show you dollar for dollar so there's no tomfoolery. And so I put on two bots. Now, Eazybot is software. It's not a DeFi protocol you give money to and they steal it. It's software that you use your exchange with your money and your funds, and through an API, it sends a buy and sell signal. You set up the API so you can give it permissions, and you give it very specific permissions to only send signals and not be able to move money around. So that being said, in the first 7 days of this Eazybot account, now remember I started this account, where's my calculator? I started this account with $3,194. So just a modest account size. And in the first 7 days, we've gotten a $29.15 return. So $29.15 divided by $31.94 that's about a 0.9% return. So almost 1% return. Now you annualize that, 52 weeks. That is a 47% annualized return. That's a pretty modest week in Eazybot. I look for a 0.5 to 1% a week on average. Now, there are weeks when I've gotten 11, 12, 15, 20% returns because the coin just shoots up. But this, as you've seen, my two coins, I have Cardano and XRP. XRP has obviously performed better. But look, if you look back at the XRP chart, it's not like we broke out of some crazy range and busted through and it hit like a 12, 15, 20, 50% return. We've gone up and down. The volatility is what this bot likes. This is a martingale DCA type bot. It's kind of like as the coin goes down, the price goes down of XRP, it will buy in at a certain field. And I'll even show you that. It will buy down. As it goes back up, it sells. You don't have to worry about emotions. This is why I love it. If you look at these closed sessions here, let's look at this one. So it bought in at 245. It went down to 230. I don't know if you can see this. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. So I bought in at 245. It went down. I bought in at 239, 235, 231, 226. And then it started selling on the way up. 233, 247, 246, 246. It's selling these covers. 248. So it sold all those covers, started a new session, and here I am. So it's initially bought in at 250, right? Okay, no, Joe, you bought in at the height. Okay, well, it covered at 244, and it's going to keep covering on the way down. Now, the risks of this are if the coin never goes back up, you're going to be stuck holding XRP till the next cycle. All right, I only do this with coins. I don't mind holding to the next cycle. So, but this is what happens. It can actually cover a higher, if you start at 250, if this goes down to 220, it's going to buy its way down. And I'll eventually have enough profit or enough lower cost DCA down there to be able to buy all the way up, even though at a lower price. So even if it never goes back to 250, I can still close this trade out with a profit. So this is why I've liked Eazybot for so long. I've been doing this since August 25th of 2022 in my full account, and I have a VIP Plus account. But if you're interested in this, there's links down below. And if you have any questions whatsoever, join me in the Discord because we talk about Eazybot in there, and you're more than welcome to ask me any questions directly. I'd love to help you out. With that, I'm not telling you have to do this. It's just another way to benefit from a fluctuating and variable market like we have right now with look at this, up, down, up, down. There's money to be made here. Yes, I buy and hold most of my XRP. 90% of my strategy is buy and hold. The other 10% is the making money from the fluctuations through things like Eazybot or Pionex bots or doing leveraged trades through BTCC. I have information for that down below. If you're interested in trading, they give a lot of other things out, benefits to joining right now. That being said, that's all I got. So the Federal Reserve, great information from yesterday. XRP, SEC dropped the case. Amazing, and now we can see what XRP can really do. We've got an SEC that's friendly towards crypto and understanding that this is a revolutionary technology that we should take advantage of. And finally, Eazybot, crushing it. I say crushing it. Most people look at 1% as nothing in this world, but I'll take a 47% return on my investment. And really, if you look at my Kraken account, look, most of my money is in Tether because I have a lot of dry powder here for if it goes down, I can buy on the way down. Oh, you can't see that. Here's my Kraken account, Tether, right here. I have most of my money is in the Tether. So if it goes down, it'll buy on the way down and sell on the way up. So I didn't really risk all of my account. I risked very little to make a 1% return per week. That's not guaranteed, and there's no guarantees in this space. So look, that's all I got. Hope you got something out of this. If you did, leave me a comment down below. If you made it this far, thank you, and I'll see you next time.